Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you already know that I'm at the tail end of my deep dive into the Lenormand system. The system that was originated in Germany under the name of the Game of Hope, and then when they exported it to France, they decided to increase sales, let's add the name of a very famous and popular cartomancer, diviner, Madame Lenormand. And so we now have the Lenormand deck. Just as a side note, when they moved it over to the United States, they added the name of Madame Morrow, the United States version of Madame Lenormand, and well, we know which one won out, right? Lenormand is all over the world. I can find a diversity of decks here in South Korea. I know you can find them anywhere. It's a wonderful system, and I'm really glad that I have taken the time to dive into it. And I've found that my reading with Tarot has expanded and deepened, and it has been very beneficial to my reading practice in general. I like using the system as it is, but I also like that I have grown from using it in all of the work that I do. And I hope that you, if you have not taken the time or the chance to do this kind of work with Lenormand, that you are inspired to do the same, because I think it is highly, highly beneficial for all cartomancers. The next step I'm thinking of taking might be going into the Petite Etea, maybe not on this channel and probably not very soon, because the book and the deck that I am waiting for from Caitlin Matthews is on pre-order, but won't be out until somewhere in late fall, early winter, I think. And so I'll want to read the book and then start working with the system, and then maybe eventually bring it onto the channel. We'll see. Let me know in the comments below if that's interesting to you at all. Yeah? So friends, you know that I prepare this spread a little bit before I come here to record with you, right? And still, what I do when I'm with you is I'm reading this spread fresh. Yeah, I've taken the pictures already. I've made some notes on individual cards, that things that I wanted to maybe bring up. I just want to make sure that I don't leave out. But I haven't really read the spread yet until now. And honestly, I'm not really sure where this spread is going to take us, really, this time. It seems very, what is the word I'm looking for? It doesn't seem bright and sunny. It doesn't seem dark and gloomy. It seems like it's going to ask us to feel and think and understand deeply. But I'm not sure about that yet, because really, I haven't read it. So, what are we going to do? First, I'm going to say thank you. I'm going to say thank you for you being you and doing those things that you do, for hitting the thumbs up button, for subscribing to the channel. Your actions allow other people to find us, and that's a blessing. And for those of you who comment in the description, well, in the comment section, yeah, you also are a blessing to me and to the community. So thank you for doing all of those things that you do. And friends, in just a moment, I will show you the spread. Then we will talk briefly about the deck. If you've been here the last couple of times, you've already seen this deck. But just in case you're new here, I'll tell you about the deck and the cardstock a little bit, and how we read this spread. And then I will show you the spread again, and we'll start reading. Are you all ready, friends? Here's this week's spread. Friends, this is the Silson Lenormand. It's by the creator of the Tildwick Tarot and several other Lenormand decks and a couple of other Tarot decks. Wonderful artwork. The size of the card is not too big, not too small. It's in that medium Goldilocks range. It could be a little smaller, but I'm not going to complain. Yeah, I can lay out a great grand tableau with this size. The images are clear. It's on most cards. There are a couple of cards in this deck that I think are unnecessarily unclear. For example, the letter card I think is unnecessarily unclear. And there are a couple of cards in this week's spread that I think are also, like I said, unnecessarily unclear or confusing. But it's a great deck. The cardstock is very nice. It's easy to shuffle. I've had cards, Lenormand decks in my hands that were that felt more luxe, that felt more durable, a little bit more durable, or a little bit more shuffleable. But really, I have no complaints about the cardstock. Very nice. And the creator of this deck does good work. I gotta say it, yeah? In fact, for this lunar cycle, I've decided to continue working with the Tildwick Tarot alongside of this deck. So you can see that I do appreciate the creators. And there'll be a link in the description box below if you want to go get this deck or any of their other decks. The creator's site is Malpertuis, and like I said, there'll be a link below. Now this I call my well, it's not my spread, but for myself, I call it the star spread because it looks like a star to me. Other people call it the 13 card spread or the Council of 13. I've seen people call this a cross spread, I think, which is interesting because if you notice, there was a cross on the top of the spread. But we read this spread in a couple of ways. Yeah, we read the spread in time and mind, you could say. Yeah, so what we do, there are two ways to read the spread, or to lay the spread, I should say. One way is to decide on a significator card for the spread you're going to lay. And you put that card in the deck and you shuffle it. For example, that card could be the man or woman card if you're just wanting to have the person you're reading for be the center of their spread. Or if they're focusing on work, you could choose the anchor card. If they're focusing on education, you might choose the tower card, for example. And then you shuffle that card in, and then you look for the card in the deck, and then the next 12 cards after that go into the spots around the central significator card. I did not do that. I allowed the deck to choose the significator for the spread each time I lay it out for us here on this channel. So that center card is the first one down. And then the two cards above it are laid down and therefore what's on our minds. The two cards below it are the cards that show us our basis or the foundation that we're standing on. The two cards to the left of it are the cards that show us our recent past. The two cards to the right show us our coming future. And then in the next four cards are laid out in this order. Yeah. Upper left-hand corner is for the recent past influences, and then the lower right gives us their resulting outcomes, and then the lower left corner gives us our unconscious motivations, and then the upper right corner gives us their unconscious motivations and the results of or the outcomes of our unconscious motivations. Does that make sense? God, I hope it does. If it does, let me know in the comments below. If it does not, let me know in the comments below. I'll try and figure out a better way of explaining the spread for you. So that's the way we're going to read this spread first. And then we'll break it down into the four cards on top, the four cards on the bottom, the four cards on the left is over here for you, or on the left and on the right, and read those separately. Okay, friends? So that's how we're going to read this spread. Let me show it to you once more so you get it in your head. You get the general shape of the spread in your head. Oh, one thing I did not mention about liking this deck. There are playing card inserts there. Did you see them? Look for them again when you look at the spread once more. Here it is. Friends, did you notice the center card there? Did you notice which card it is? It's pretty clear by the image. Yeah? Well, it could be fortunate or unfortunate. If you don't know Latin, the titles on the card are not very helpful. Yeah, because they're all in Latin. A couple of them I quibble with their choice of the Latin translation, but okay, that's no problem. We still have the numbers. The numbers are correct. The numbers are in Roman numerals. If you're not good at reading Roman numerals quickly, that could be a little bit of a challenge for you using this deck. But it's okay. So the card in the center was card 30, yeah, which is the lily card. And that is our significator. That is the primary response to the question that I ask every week. How can we live our lives more intentionally in the coming week? The lily card is the primary response. Yes? But before we start reading these cards, you know, if you know me, I like to get an overview of the spread. Yeah, as far as the mood of it. Period. Yes, as far as the mood of it. That's exactly what I wanted to say. So, you saw, starting at the top, we had the top center is the cross. That's not a significator, but it is the top center. And then right below it, from left to right, we had the clouds, the snake, and the fox. Below that, from left to right, we had the child, the woman, which we'll talk about much later, the lily, the clover, and the tower. And then below that, we had a card you probably don't know because it is not in a standard Lenormand deck. Yes? I accidentally shuffled this extra card into the deck this time. I usually keep it out, but it was here. It has no number. It's an extra card. It's called Stuti, which means basically fool. Not the fool like the Fool in Tarot so much. I mean, I don't know how you read the Fool in Tarot, but I do not read the Fool in Tarot as a stupid person. But this is the idea of a fool as a stupid person. Okay, so then we keep going with the crossroads, and then the book was right beside that. At the very bottom, we had the coffin. So top and bottom of this spread, pretty negative cards. But let's see if we can get the characteristic, the overall mood of the spread. We start off, again, with the cross, which is negative, right? The clouds are negative. The snake is neutral negative. The fox is neutral negative. We've got a whole bunch of negative cards on this in the table here. Yeah? The tower is neutral. The clover is positive, so that cancels out one of the negative cards. The lilies are positive neutral. That cancels out one of the negative neutral cards. The woman is neutral. The child is positive neutral, so we got that canceling out a negative neutral card. But the book is negative neutral. Crossroads are neutral. The Stuti is neutral. And then the coffin is neutral negative. So we've got a fairly negative spread here. Yeah? When we look at the playing card inserts, we don't have very many happy playing card suits here. Yeah, I do not see one heart on the table. Now, we've got four diamonds, which would be canceled out by spades. We've got 1 spade, 2 spades, 3 spades, 4 spades, 5 spades, 6 spades, 7 spades. Yeah? All of the slightly positive cards are way overpowered by the negative spades. And then we've also got a clubs card here. So I mean, sorry, we've got two clubs cards here. So this is a fairly negative spread. So this is a spread of what? I don't think we want to read it as gloom and doom, but it's be aware. Take caution. Recognize the negative influences that are in our lives right now kind of spread. Yeah? But we start off with a neutral positive card in the center with the lily card. Yes? So let's start there. This is our primary answer to the question, how can we live our lives more intentionally in the coming week? And this lily card here answers the question. And what is a lily? A lily, well, you can see in this card, yeah? A lily is it's not a delicate flower, right? It's not the flower of the blushing rose or a daisy, yes? This lily and most lilies are very sturdy flowers, right? They have thick, fleshy petals. Petals? It depends on the species of lily. Petals for the flower itself. The stem is very sturdy. And often it grows on one stalk. Yeah, maybe there will be a few flowers on that one stalk, maybe not, depending on the species. But it's a very sturdy, but also sensuous flower. Yeah, it's not sensuous like a rose is sensuous in the scent and the feel, rose petal, right? But it is sensuous if you've touched the flesh of a lily flower, you'll notice that it has that soft but thick feel to it. And it's a very sturdy, there's a masculine feeling to the lily itself, right? Flower is very feminine, but the stalk itself is a little bit phallic, right? And it depends on species of lilies. Sometimes the whole flower itself looks very phallic, even though there's an opening at the top, yeah? So there's a sexuality to the lily, which is a wonderful quality, but I don't think that's what we're talking about here. Yeah? How do we use lilies? We use lilies culturally for religious ceremonies, for Easter, for baptism, sometimes for funerals as well. Now that white color, the lily in many decks is assumed to be white, is a sign of purity, of innocence, also regained innocence. Yeah? The rebirth after death, the rising to heaven after death. So the lily is a card for harmony, for family and sexuality. But there's a maturity also to this flower. And rather than the sexuality or even the family here, I think the answer to our question, how can we live more intentionally in the coming week, points us towards the maturity and the harmonious attitude or harmonious emotional state that will benefit us in this coming week. And the harmony of emotion is something we choose. Does that make sense to you, and do you believe that? You have the potential to choose your emotional responses and your emotional state. Now, of course, sometimes there will be shocks that will knock us off of our horse, so to speak, and we will be reactive, but there is almost always time for us to regroup and redirect our emotions up what I call the emotional scale. And I'm not the one who created that idea. I learned that idea from a teacher a long, long time ago. And that one teacher that I learned it from a long, long time ago is the woman who speaks for Abraham Hicks. Yes? There's this idea of a scale of emotion that runs the gamut from despair, depression, powerlessness, up to love, joy, passion, appreciation, etc. Yeah? And wherever we are on that scale, we can always make the choice to turn ourselves in the direction of and move step by step up the scale towards the higher, more pleasing, more powerful, and more empowered emotions. And the closer we are to the higher part of the scale of emotions, the more open we are to taking advantage of the power of intention. So, that requires a little bit of maturity to be able to do that. Yes? It requires some harmony, some eternal but internal harmony to be able to regain our balance and make the choice to move in the direction of our power, our emotional power, and the state of taking advantage of the power of intention. Does that make sense? So this first card right out of the box is saying the way to survive, but to navigate this coming week is our maturity, emotional maturity, and harmonious emotional states. And that's what this card is all about, particularly for us in this spread. Now, we're going to look at what's on our minds first this time, because I think that is where some of the challenge that we're going to be experiencing in this coming week is going to arise from. So we start off at the very tippy top with the cross card. And I decided to bring a cross right here with me into the reading space because of that. Now, because that's what's on our mind, and I wanted to have a touchstone here for what we're talking about when we talk about the cross. Yes? And the cross that I have here is the cross that was the symbolic cross of Pope Francis, who fairly recently passed, yes? But yeah, the cross, what is that? Now we remember that this deck was developed in a very Christian context, yes? Yeah, Germany, France, one was probably moving towards, if not primarily, Lutheran Protestant. The other was primarily Roman Catholic. But still, both of them were primarily Christian. Yes? There were other religions around, but still, the cultural milieu was Christian. The languages were shaped by and colored by Christian symbol and Christian philosophy, theology, etc. So, what is this cross card for us in this spread? Well, a cross is the tool that was used to kill the man called Jesus, or Yesh. Okay, so what was his actual name? The name that's most commonly given to this human being, who is both human and divine, is Jesus of Nazareth. Yes? They took, for English speakers, of course, they took Jesus of Nazareth, required that he, according to the story, carried his cross to the place where he would be murdered, killed on this cross. So we have the idea of burden, of torture, of death, but also of resurrection. Because the cross is not the end of the story, it is the beginning of the new chapter of the follower of Jesus of Nazareth. Yes? Jesus called the Christ, which makes us Christian. If we follow Jesus of Nazareth, who becomes the anointed one, the Christ. Yes? So, though this cross is very bloody, it is still a primary Christian image of both burden, death, also resurrection, and also fate and destiny. Because we believe as Christians that Jesus of Nazareth was destined to suffer this death for the reparation of humans to the divine, according to the theology of Christians around the world. Right? So, and again, this card was created in this cultural context. Right? So that's the primary meaning of the cross, is burdens, fate, destiny. But there's also the spirituality of the resurrection after the death, the regaining of the divine form after we have sloughed off the human form. Here, being at the top of this star spread, which again some people call the cross spread, being at the top of this spread, it is weighing down on the rest of the spread. And we got a sense of the spread being negative leaning. So I think we're really looking at the burdens and the weighing down of things being on our minds. Yes? And what is the quality of that weighing down, of that burden? It's this card here, the snake. What are snakes? Well, in the Christian context, it is the liar, right? It is the one who comes to the first woman, Eve, and tells Eve to eat the apple or whatever fruit it was on the tree of knowledge of good and evil, so that she would be as good as the divine, and the humans would be as good as the divine. And there is that trickster liar quality to the Christian image of the snake. But snakes are also known for other things, right? Snakes transform. Snakes shed skins. Snakes are windy. Snakes can be images and symbols of many different things. They're also an ancient symbol of knowledge and intelligence. Yes? Thus, the snake was on the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Yes? So they're what? The knowledge, intelligence, also falsehoods, lies, deception, betrayal. Also temptation and seduction, right? The tempting, seductive qualities of humans are also embodied by the snake. But also it could be winding paths, it could be wires in modern society, yeah? Think of the wires connecting bits to your computer as like little snakes, so there's wiring, that idea if you're reading for your house, for example. But for us, I think this snake is the burdens and the weighing down of deception and falsehoods in our environment. And that's what we've got on our minds right now. The falsities, the lies, the deceptions that are rampant in society might be weighing down on us with the cross this week, requiring of us more maturity to be able to handle that, yes? To not become reactive, but to keep our harmonious, grounded stance. Does that make sense? And so what's beneath us right now? What's beneath us, we begin with this card, which I like the beauty of the card, I like the image on the card, but I do not find it helpful for Lenormand. Yes, this is supposed to be the Crossroads card, or the Paths card. To me, this is a maze. Well, actually, it's a labyrinth. But instead of being a path that we need to choose one way or the other, right? This is a labyrinth, and what do we do with a labyrinth? We start on the outside, and we just follow the path, the windy path of the snake. Yes, we follow the path slowly in a meditative state, a meditative frame of mind, and we slowly walk to the center of the maze, the labyrinth, I should say. And then we turn around and we slowly, maybe we'll stay in the center of the labyrinth for a little while to meditate a little bit more, and then we wind our way out. This isn't the kind of maze where you have to choose the right path. That's not what this is. This isn't a maze, it's a labyrinth where we go in and we just follow the slow, windy path that seems to get closer and then move farther and then get closer and then move farther. But we eventually just follow the path to the center, and then we just follow the path back out without thinking about it. Which seems to be exactly the opposite of what we want from a Crossroads card, where we have to make a choice which way to go now. Yeah? For a Crossroads card, we usually see one road leading to two paths going in opposite directions. And then we can read that card directionally to see where the two choices lead us. Help us make a decision, right? This card does none of that, which makes it a little bit of a disappointment for me in this deck. Yeah? Again, it's a beautiful image, but it doesn't do the work that I need a Crossroads card to do. What is a crossroads? Because we're not reading the image really, we're reading the symbol of the card, which is the crossroad, even though it's not shown on this card. And it's choices. It's making decisions, and making the decisions now, in the present. And putting those decisions off is going to be it's going to cause more problems than not. Yeah? So what we're standing on is the need to make a choice now. What kind of choice are we making? Well, the choice we're making is this card, which is believe it or not, this is the coffin card. I find this card to be confusing. I do not see a coffin in this card. What I see in this card is a wheelbarrow and a guy doing some farming. I don't see a coffin and the digging up of a grave, which is maybe what the creator intended, but I don't see that. I see farming. But this is still the coffin card, and I'm not really sure I'm completely on board with the Latin translation of this card, but still, it's the coffin card, which is what? It's a thing that we put the bodies in before we put them in the ground, right? It's a place where we box up the body. And it's a symbol of ends, of death, of finishing, also of mourning and of loss, of boxing things up as well. Yeah, that's what a coffin does. It boxes things up. So the coffin is a card for endings, of finishing, of losses, of mourning, and not mourning like morning and evening, but rather the sadness of the mourning of grief. Yeah? Emptiness, that emptiness when we've lost somebody or feel like we've lost somebody. It can actually be ill health and death, but we're not reading it that way, definitely here. It could also be renewal, but I don't see renewal in this card, generally. But I know some people read it that way. Especially maybe because this is the 9 of diamonds associated with the card, and the 9 of diamonds is a very positive playing card association. So, what is the crossroads? What is the choice? The choice is to end something Yeah, it's the choices of endings and of letting things go. That's what we're standing on, and that's what's going to give us the maturity, perhaps, to be able to navigate what is going to feel like a very deceitful, lying, false environment that we are going to perhaps experience in the coming week. Which could be anything from governments to friends. Yeah? Anything from the work environment to our social environment. So just keep aware that you might be experiencing some deception, and that might be on our minds, and it might be weighing on our minds, but we have the chance to find our maturity and our emotional balance and emotional harmony. And it might require us to stand on a choice of ending some things. Yes? Now let's look at the past. What is the past showing us? Well, the past is actually showing us something fairly positive, right? We start off with the Tower. Here's the Tower card here. And the Tower is a card, think of the place that you go up to see a great distance. To see if enemies are coming, but also to just take a look at your environment around, what's happening around you. Yeah? It's also a place where we lock people up. So we put people in isolation up in the Tower. Think Rapunzel, but also think of the Bastille. We use towers as symbols of institutions, right? There's a tower on many campuses, university campuses. There are bell towers, which are indications of the church, the central institution of a community. So towers do all of those things. So this is a card of, yes, solitude and taking a step back, taking a step away, but also of institutions, of companies. It could be a college or a university or a library or a governmental agency, some structural, formal entity. It's high above. So we have the heights. Could be something that's unattainable. Now, there are some of these cards we've talked about already have people associated with them, but I don't think we want to get into that in this reading. For example, the snake had the Queen of Spades associated with that, which is a deceitful woman, maybe, or a temptress, right? The Crossroads has the Queen of Diamonds, which is a not powerful necessarily, but a financially well endowed businesswoman, perhaps, or a woman of means, right? And some of the other cards we mentioned have kinds of people associated with them. The Tower has a person associated with it, an older male, maybe a patriarch, but I don't think we need to get into that in this spread. So in our past, we're looking at perhaps our removal from society, from the hustle and bustle, if we've been able to take that opportunity to step back and isolate a little bit. That seems to have brought some benefit to us. Why? Because of this next card here, which is the Clover card. Does it look like Clover to you? It kind of does in a very medieval illumination kind of way, but this is the Clover card. And what are clovers? Clovers are small plants that are green, so we associate money and health to that color, right? The clover is a symbol of the luck of the Irish, of leprechauns. So we have the idea of luck and good fortune with clovers. They are a weak plant, but they grow back, right? They'll grow quickly, but they will very quickly be eaten by many kinds of animals. If you step on them, right, it's all over, as opposed to a tree, which is powerful and strong and long-lasting. The clovers are plants that die quickly, but they grow back quickly as well. So this is a card of what? It's small, everyday luck. It's good stuff. Not like the big luck or good fortune of the sun, but it's everyday small luck. It's little money, yeah? It's happiness. It's hope and optimism a little bit. Yeah, those little bits of good fortune and synchronicities that make us feel optimistic and happy and good. Yeah, not joyful, loving, and like powerful emotions, but good, happy. This is nice. Yeah, so our stepping back, it may have also brought some omens or some blessings to us, but also some little happiness, some little luck, some little hope and optimism might have been bubbling up for us in the recent past. Because we haven't been engaging too deeply in society around us. We've taken a step back, which has led us to regaining a little bit of our maturity with the lily. That lily is not up there, the clover is up there, but with the central card of this spread, which is the lily. Yes? So now let's look at the future. Where are we going? Well, the first step forward is this card, which is the woman. Now, what is the woman for us here in this spread? Because I'm reading for all of us through me, the woman is the partner card. Yes, the man card would be me, the woman card would be the partner card. Yeah? And so we're moving in the direction of our partner. Right? Now the woman is also associated with intuition, the receptive rather than the active principle, the receptive principle. So yeah, we do have some ideas of our intuition and our receptivity being beneficial, but we also are moving in the direction of a partner. So if you're married or in a relationship, it could be that. If you're not in a relationship, it could be somebody new entering your life. It could be a working relationship or a romantic relationship or another kind of relationship with a human. But there's a relationship, a partner in our lives that becomes more important or coming into our lives. Yes? In the coming week. Which could lend a little bit of the sexuality back to the lily if we want to. Yes, with the partner. It could be a sexual partner, a romantic partner. Not the sex that some people would associate with the whip, which would be that pounding, repetitive kind of sex, but rather the sensual, luxurious kind of sex of the lily. This partner is leading us towards what? This card, the child. Our partner carries us to something new. Or our partner is new. Now, what is the child? The child is a little new baby. I'm not talking about pedophilia. The partner is not a little baby person. It could be a new partner. But there's a newness coming to us, right? The child is a card for new beginnings, for small things which are developing. Now, maybe our relationship with a partner will be developing in the near future. It could be a real child if you are with a partner that is, and one of you has the potential of becoming pregnant. There could be a new child coming into your future, just saying. But there's also the idea of childish behavior in the negative sense, but also the more positive sense of childlike naivete or innocence, yeah? So maybe our partners are more innocent, more naive, and They could teach us something if they are. Yeah, regaining our naivete, regaining our innocence, I think, in this spread is not the same as regaining our stupid, right? There's a wise innocence and naivete to a human who is well-grounded and open to the power of intention. So if our partner is bringing that to us, we want to be receptive of that. Or it could be our relationship is growing. Our relationship is blossoming and developing, becoming more mature. That's also a possibility. Does any of that resonate for you? So we have 4 more cards to look at. We're going to look at the past influences and their current or coming results. So up here in the past influences, we have this card, which is the Clouds card. This card, okay, so a little bit of venting. The horseman on, or horse lady on the cloud here is a little bit confusing to me. Yes, there's a different rider card in the deck, and no, this is not number 2, so you should be able to know quickly that this is not the rider, but the cloud card, and the name on the title on the card is Nimvi. It's hard to read this font for me, but maybe it's Nimbi, maybe that's a B, but it is cloud in Latin, and yet if you're scanning a tableau and you're looking for the rider, for example, I would go to this card perhaps. But it's not, it's the cloud card. And what are clouds? Clouds are things that if we're up in them, not above them or below them, but in the center, they make it hard to see forward, right? They limit our vision, right? They limit our ability to see the stars, too. A cloudy sky, we cannot see the sun, we cannot see the stars, we cannot see the moon. Now they impede what we can see. One thing I like to see in a cloud card is that one side is light and one side is dark, and we don't really see that in this card. We just have to make a random decision that, I don't know, the side of the butt of the horse would be the dark side and the side that the rider is moving into would be the light side, maybe? I don't know. It's interesting that there are animal. Oh, wait a second. Okay, so maybe those are not. Oh, no. I have no idea what I'm really looking at when I see this tree with these clouds. It looks like there's rain hitting some plants, which is being disruptive. But it almost looks like there's a factory here underneath the clouds, which it would be completely anachronistic. Maybe that's supposed to be Noah's Ark? I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. So this is the cloud card, which is maybe the clouds are, the light side of the clouds are where okay, English. I can speak English. Maybe the light side of the clouds is on the side of the rest of the spread, because the clouds card on the left side where there are no cards is outside of the spread. The side of the card where the rider is writing, which might be the light side, we've got the rest of the spread, right? So maybe that will help us later. Clouds are confusion. Clouds are problems, delays, ambiguity, the intangible. Yeah, you can't grasp a cloud, right? Even if it's right there in front of your face, you can't hold on to it because it's a cloud. So the past influences seem to be some problems, some delays, and some confusion. Things are not as clear as we hoped they would be. And there were a couple of spreads in the recent past that seem to be pointing towards those things, right? Do you recall those? And they result, or the outcome of that confusion is this card, which was that weird card that I accidentally shuffled in, which is the stulti, which is foolishness. A stulti is a fool, a booby. Not the female breast, but a booby, like an idiot. A boob. Yeah? A simpleton. A loggerhead, a blockhead, a stupid person, an oaf, someone both stupid and uncultured. So our confusion has perhaps led us into some stupidity, some lack of use of our intellectual capacity. To say it more politely, yes? To say it more harshly, maybe we've done some stupid things as a result of our confusion. Maybe. Yeah? It's interesting, this card looks to me like the Wheel of Fortune. And that's how I was going to read this card before I looked at the Latin on the card. Now, if it had been a wheel card, according to the deck, I would have read the Wheel of Fortune, which would be, okay, so our confusion, but things are changing. It was just a cycle. We're moving on. But it looks like the result is no. According to the Latin on this card, we've been dumber. We haven't been dumb. We've been dumber. Yeah. And unconsciously, what's going on in our unconscious? It's this card, the book, which is neutral negative. Now, the book, at the time of the printing of this deck, was a tool used by a limited number of people. Literacy was not high in society. Books were published. We had the printing press already, and the time of the people in this card was before the printing press, but still, at the time of the creation of this deck, not this deck being by Malpertuis, but rather the first Lenormands and the Game of Hope, there were published books, but the literacy rate was low. So, books are information from one person to a number of people, but not all people, and there's an element of secrecy there. We also get the idea of a book being our journal, maybe someplace that we write things down that we don't want other people to see. That's also possible. So the book card is what? It's the card of secrets, of things not being shown yet. And I would prefer to have a book on this card where we could see the spine on one side and the opening or closed pages on the other side, because that way I could see which information is maybe locked up and unavailable to us, and which information is open and will be revealed if it hasn't been revealed already. So I'm not all that thrilled with this book image, although the image itself is beautiful. I like the image itself. It's just not helpful as a Lenormand card. So what? Again, secrets. What is hidden and might be revealed. There's also the idea of knowledge and studying, because it's a book. Learning is possible. But here, because it's in our unconscious, but it's motivation. Our unconscious motivations, I think, are not really clearly revealed for us right now. Yeah? We're not really sure what is drawing us to do and be the people that we are doing and being. That's not said correctly. Let me try that again. Our unconscious motivations, which are unclear and unavailable to us right now, are causing us to do things that we're not exactly sure why we're doing them, or be the kind of people that we're not really sure why we're being that person in the present or in the near future. Because that leads us right to the result of this unconscious hidden information is the fox card. And what is a fox card? The fox card is, or what is a fox? A fox is a mammal that takes care of its cubs in its den, but is also a thief if you're a human farmer. Right? Yeah, they come in, they sneak in, they find ways to get into your hen house, for example, and bring a hen back to its cubs to eat. So there's the cleverness of the fox. There's the duty of the fox to feed its family. There's the deception and something not being quite right with the fox. There's the idea of someone or something being false. Remember, we had the falseness of the snake. We also have warnings, yeah? But we could also have thinking outside of the box. But what I think we're seeing with this fox as the result of unconscious information not being revealed to us is that something is not quite right. Something is wrong. And rather than thinking outside of the box, we want to take the warning and maybe do some introspection to learn what's going on inside of here. Even though in the world around us, it might be deception and lies and falsehoods, still, there's something in here also that is asking us to discover it. Does that make sense? Okay, friends, we're going to read this spread in another way. We're going to read the 4 cards above the significator, the 4 cards below the significator, the 4 cards to the left, and the 4 cards to the right. Are you all ready for that, friends? Well, here we go. Let me show you the spread once more, and then we'll read it together in that way. Take a look. Friends, let's start off with what's on our minds again, because I think that's really the challenge of this spread, is what's going on in our heads and what are we observing. So we start off with that cross card above, right? I'll have this grouping of cards right over here. We start off with the cross card above, which is, again, the burdens, maybe the destiny, but the burdens and the weighing down of our experience in the world. And that leads us to an experience of what? From left to right, we have the clouds, the snake, and the fox. So, the cross, the burden, is weighing down on the confusion, right? The confusion and the problems of the clouds, which open up to reveal the falsehoods and the betrayal and the lies around us, which lead us to our need to maybe. Now we can think of the fox a little bit more positively here, to think outside of the box, to really use our wits, right? Because maybe we remember that Stulti card, we haven't been so smart. We're called to, because of this deception, be smart. Don't fall for it. Be clever. Think outside of the box of these falsehoods and the deception that are being placed upon all of us these days, and find our own way out. Does that make sense? Because what are we standing on? We're standing on these 4 cards, which were the book, the crossroads, the stulti, and the coffin, yeah? So here I think we're standing on a foundation of knowledge or secrets. No secrets. I'm right. No, we're sticking with secrets. Yeah, secrets. Things that have not been revealed to us. Things that are hidden from us. Causing us to make a choice which was kind of stupid. Because we didn't have all of the information. We didn't know enough, when still we had to make a choice, and it was a stupid choice. It was a foolish choice. It was a choice of the buffoon, of the ill-informed. And that has led us to the ending of things, and maybe a feeling of mourning and grief because of our foolish actions. This spread really seems to be calling us out for not having... No, okay. So, I don't think the spread is calling us out for being stupid per se, but rather calling us out to recognize the stupid things that we've done because we were not well informed, because we didn't have the information, maybe because we've been lied to. And maybe it's not saying it's your fault, but rather it's time to wake up. That sense of being called, maybe not out, but called up. Wake up. Get your maturity on. Yeah? Does that make sense? Now, in the recent past, and I'll put the 4 cards over here, yeah? We start off with the Tower card leading to the clouds, the clover, and the book. So, the Tower card, yeah? We're up. Maybe we were up, our heads were in the clouds. Now we've been up above it all. Our heads were maybe, okay, yeah, I'm just going to stay there. Our heads were in the clouds. Which led to some feeling of hope and optimism. Maybe we got a little bit of money. If you got some money, that's great for you. I hope so. Led to some hope and optimism, and maybe some knowledge with the book. Yeah, the book, we don't always have to read the same card the same way. Yeah, flowing from the clover, from little bits of luck, I think we have gained some knowledge, some understanding, some of what was hidden being revealed. And maybe that's what has allowed us to recognize that, oh my God, I was sitting in the midst of lies, deception, and falsehoods. Maybe our heads being in the clouds, having been in the tower, has had some positive outcome with lucky revelation. Yeah? Fortunate, hopeful revelation of what's going on. And we move to the future, which will be over here, these cards, with the fox, the woman, and the sturti, and then the child. So, the fox. Cleverness, duty, maybe, remember we were moving forward with our partner into something new. But maybe our partners are also a mixed bag. Yeah? Maybe our partners have been I'm not saying betrayal. I'm not saying deceitful necessarily, but not quite the open books that we thought they were. Yeah, maybe our partners have been a little bit wrong and false because they felt like they had to be clever. Maybe they felt like they had to take care of themselves and do what was necessary, and so they weren't completely open to us. Maybe. So maybe our partner has been foxy, a little deceptive, a little bit wrong, a little bit false, not fully when you only give the truth, when you not what is that V? It's a V word, I think. They weren't an open book. Okay, let's just go with that. I can't think of the V word I'm looking for. But so, and that has led to some foolishness and some blockhead behavior. Maybe on their part, but maybe on our part. Maybe it's that deception. Remember, the deception, I think, is more broadly spread. But maybe our partners have also been a little bit deceptive, and that has led us to act foolishly. Do some stupid stuff. Yeah? But it's leading to a new beginning, right? So maybe there will be a revelation of this thing which has been false, which allows something new to grow. Slowly. For a maturation to take place. Does that make sense? And this is really a spread calling us to do something and be something very specific, I believe. Have you already figured that out? Yeah? Let me pause for just a moment. Sorry, the halls outside of my door are getting a little noisy. So, do you see where we're going with this spread? The growth of our maturity is going to be significantly important for this coming week. Yeah? We live in societies where there is not a lot of full disclosure of truthful information. Yes? We're living in a time where people's opinions seem to be more important than truth or fact. We seem to be living in times where my reality is different from your reality, which is true, but we're swimming in people using that truth deceptively. Yeah? And we find that in governmental agencies, we find, political entities, I should say. We find that in many groups around us, and we sometimes feel like we are swimming through a sea of deception and manipulation. And we are called to find our mature, inner, harmonious, emotionally balanced selves to be able to navigate this time in our reality. And if we can do that, without casting blame on everybody, because that would be a resistant stance and that would cut us off from our own power. Instead of doing that, we want to maintain our own flotation device. We want to maintain our own ability to ride the waves of what is happening in the world around us. Harmoniously, in a balanced way. And move deliberately up the emotional scale to re-inhabit our love, joy, well-being, clarity, mental clarity. All of those things at the higher end of the emotional scale. And that is going to call from us maturity, balance, harmony of the lily. Can you do that? It's not easy. It's not easy. And it's not easy because this spread is also not asking us to remove ourselves from society either, right? We're coming out of maybe a little bit of an isolation period, and maybe we're entering into society, and maybe that's what is making all of this turmoil, maybe, but unsettled atmosphere to be more disturbing to us right now, because we're re-entering it. And that's going to call from us some maturity. And wow, I got a really strong sense of deja vu from this. And I maybe, did you get a sense of deja vu from this message? We've heard this message, I think, before on this channel. And maybe it's time to enter our maturity again. And be aware of what people are doing around us without blaming or shaming or pointing fingers. Just be aware and allow them to do what they're going to do without letting it affect us. Because it doesn't have to affect us, I don't think. And we don't have to make stupid choices. Right? So friends, thank you. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Thank you for reading this spread with me. What do you think? I'd love to hear from you. What do you think about this spread? Can you find the positive message from this rather heavy spread that was presented to us? I hope so. In just a moment, the QR code will be up for my online tarot shop. If you want to go check that out, go check it out. And friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.